It's Blue Tuesday for the Indianapolis Colts, coming off that loss to the Cleveland Browns, a galling loss to the Cleveland Browns. We had a chance to talk to Gus Bradley, defensive coordinator of the Colts today, and hear what he thought about the game, hear what he thought about Kenny Moore, about the absence of Juju Brents, and hear about what they try to do at the end of the game. Kevin Bowen asked the question, and it's a really good one. Are they thinking about changing kind of strategy late in the game when a team's got the entire field to go? That is as much a part of the kind of the signature of that Colts loss as anything else that happened on Sunday, including the officials. When you play bend, don't break, you bend and you don't break, right? But you give up chunk plays, and you can't give up chunk plays late. You got to hold the line. You got to put pressure on the quarterback, or every quarterback in the NFL is going to carve you up, as P.J. Walker did late in that game. Here's Gus Bradley.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. I guess, like they say, it's part of the game, and it's unfortunate with Juju. He's playing pretty well for us. So, you know, it's we're evaluating that spot right now, just looking at our options. We're kind of in the midst of game planning now. So, you know, we'll take a look at that and just see what's best for our team.
Okay, sorry, Gus. The Saints have struggled inside the red zone all season. Can you describe how getting off the field on third down will play a factor in Sunday's game?
Yeah, I mean, each week that's a critical part. All those situations, red zone, third down, you know, our ability to affect the quarterback, all those are big components in it. So it'll be no different. We know that teams can catch fire. You know, I know they've got a nice little package that they use down there, and you know, we got a lot of respect for them. They got a lot of threats down there. The ability to run the ball, the ability to throw the ball. So it'll be a challenging group to defend.
Hey, Gus, with all these injuries and youth at the outside corner spot, it seems like in some ways Kenny Moore's job's gotten a little, more challenging or different this year. It seems like he's just raised the level up that much more, though. What have you kind of seen in him sort of turning the corner this year, from last year?
Right. I think that, it's all about perspective with the nickel spot. Like we've always, even last year, appreciated Kenny Moore, what he's done. I know sometimes the picks isn't there, or the sacks, but what he does, just like, for example, that crack toss, where he has the ability to penetrate and get upfield and make a tackle for a loss. He's done multiple things like that. He allows us the ability, teams, which I told you last week, they tried to get us to play backwards, and to have a nickel that will tackle and is a willing tackler and knows how to his fits. All those things, I think for us, we have great appreciation. So it's nice to see that also, getting a couple sacks and being around the ball. He had a misstop on an interception, but yeah, he's playing very well for us. And it's really good for that group, especially the young corners, to see just, what the standard looks like.
And just as a quick follow-up, I mean, he is getting some more of those splash plays this year, tackles for lost picks. What have you kind of noticed that does for either his confidence or just his fit, just when he is kind of making those splash plays?
Well, he's a playmaker for us. So, those guys, they want to make plays. So I think I will say this, we have a better understanding of our personnel and to try to position them in position to make plays, utilizing their skill set. I think that is a part of it too. We have a better understanding. Kenny's been the same guy. He plays at a high level there, but to try to find ways to get him around the ball, I think is important. And when we do that, he has a tendency to make big plays for us.
James?
Gus, what do you take away from the last two penalties, obviously the ones that everyone's talking about, and what do you teach from those moments going forward when you might have think you did the right thing, but you see some laundry on the field? Right.
Well, I think, it's unfortunate, right? When plays like that happen, and it feels like all the pressure's on that play and it's a game deciding play. But I think there's obviously other plays that led up to it that we got to get corrected too. But I mean, as a coaching staff, we talk about it and then we come back to looking at the technique. How do we want to do that? Should we have pressed? Should we have played from off? If we do play from off, what's the timing of that blitz? And, when should we expect the ball to be out? So we look at it more like that and say, hey, how do we get these guys in position where they're not in position for that to happen?
Yeah. Gus, two things. Since Kenny Moore was mentioned with the corner situation, you're not going to give away schemes and all that, but maybe do you use him more outside and try to find another option at nickel, or is that screwing with two positions?
No, I think it's a great question. It's a great question. And it's a discussion we've had, to look at personnel. And obviously Kenny could play outside and, but now the inside portion and how valuable he is on the inside. And, now it's, you're getting him out there in 11 personnel and then a nickel and just all the pieces to that. But I'm not going to lie, Jappy. I think we looked at that. But we're still discussing what's the best for the team, but I would anticipate him probably playing more inside just because he's so valuable for us there.
The other question, how unique of a challenge is to prepare for a Taysom Hill?
It is challenging. I think what's unique about New Orleans is just all the different personnel groupings that they have. And, all the different variables. He could be in there with Carr and he's the quarterback. He could be in there with Carr and he's a tailback. He could be in there with Carr and he's a tight end. And, it's not like Wildcat where, the back probably can't throw very well. He can throw. So they force you to spend a lot of time on maybe 1 or 2 reps a game, something that might show up. But, for us, 1 rep, just like the third down that we had, you miss it, you don't quite fit it up right, and it's a 69-yard touchdown run. So, it forces you to go through all the variables, what they could do, and sometimes you're chasing ghosts rather than, working on just their core principles that they do.
Thanks, Gus.
Kevin?
Gus, I guess some of this dates back to maybe last year, but how do you go about closing out games better when you guys get that chance for the 2-minute drive there with the lead?
Yeah, I think that, what I mentioned to our guys is we don't want them to play like robots back there, where they're thinking so much. Obviously, there's a lot of cues and things like that. They've got to understand situational football. But where there is no easing off or flexibility is on technique. I think the technique part of it, we mentioned there was a time when Kenny Moore was going to blitz and they came out with a different formation and he thought it might have been, a certain pass. So he didn't come. I think that's instincts. That part is good. But when it comes to technique and fundamentals, there's where there's no easing up on. And I think in those final plays, those technique things that we did, we gave up a 30-yard pass, and it was more of a technique issue. And, those things we have no flexibility on. We got to continue to preach that with those guys. And for the most part, they do that, but all it takes is one person.
Last question for Gus. Nate?
Yeah, with a position like an outside cornerback, I'm just wondering how quickly can you get a guy up to speed who's new, to get him on the field? I'm thinking about a guy like you guys just signed Amir Speed. Like, is it possible in 1 week of practice to get the guy ready there, or is that more of a process?
No, I think it, it's all based on, what the game plan is, and how complicated it is. And when you have new corners, you got to simplify some things. You maybe, can't do some of the things you'd like to do. But, when you're in this position right here, we have to be flexible. And if someone like that is playing, then we got to understand that part of it and try to simplify what we do so that they can play fast.
That's Gus Bradley, and that is just unsatisfactory. The way that defense played late, that did not work for me. They've got to play better late in the game, and they got to be better schematically, not just execution. Of course, the execution has got to be really good, but the scheme has got to be right. And when you play that bubble coverage where you're allowing all kinds of stuff underneath, that just is not going to work in the NFL. You can't just all of a sudden try to get strong inside your 20 in that red zone late in the game. You can't do that. That's a losing proposition. We've seen it again and again and again. We saw it with Eberflus, and on Sunday, we saw it again with Gus Bradley.